Welcome to Calix Boxing 2.0. I am live with Dragon Style, D-Style Boxing. Good to be with you here on this Tuesday. It feels like a Monday, but it's a Tuesday. What's going on, D-Style?
Everything's going good on my end, man. I'm glad to be here. Let's get this show on the road. You know what I mean?
And D-Style and I will be doing shows going forward Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That's the new schedule. So be on the lookout for the shows. We'll be back tomorrow as well. But D-Style, over the weekend, we had the Terminator fighting Joe Joyce. What did you think about Joe Joyce? I love me some Joe Joyce. Now, slow. He's a slow fighter. I used to say the same thing about Alfredo Angulo. He sort of reminds me of the heavyweight Alfredo Angulo. Like he's the slow dial-up internet. But I like
AOL.
I want to get your
AOL out the filter. Remember before they had the filter and all that, and you couldn't use the phone at the same time. There was no cell phones.
What'd you think? What do you think about Joe Joyce overall? Because what we saw Saturday night was more of the same of what we've seen from Joe Joyce in the past. 14-0, 13 KOs. But there are things, right? Like there's good and there's bad. Where do you see him fitting in the division?
Ugly. Look, obviously, I get it, right? But I have to be honest with you, man. I'm not impressed with Joe Joyce. I am, and it's not about the slow thing. It's not about any of that. I'm not even saying he's a bad fighter, but in my opinion, Jennings wanted to fight against him. In my opinion, he was very fortunate that the only punch he was really landing against Dubois, which was a hammer fist jab, just happened to fuck up the orbital bone. If the orbital bone, and I get it, why it did, so it doesn't matter, but I don't think that was a likely thing to happen. It just happened to have happened. But it's I'm just not impressed. Hammer was landing at will in the first round. This Homer Simpson style of I'm gonna let you beat the fuck out of me until you're tired of beating me up and then I'm gonna wreck your ass. I don't know if that style is gonna last. Like, period. Like this dude ain't gonna be around for a while if that's his plan. Because that's what he does. Dudes beat him up. They get tired, and then he wrecks their ass. He's like, people keep saying Michael Myers, me included, but he actually reminds me of Homer Simpson. Homer Simpson in The Simpsons, there was an episode where Homer Simpson took up the sport of boxing. Dudes would beat the shit out of him, but then they would get tired, and then he would just knock them out. You know what I mean? But eventually he ran into that character. It's kind of like Mike Tyson. I don't think they use that name, but it was just a little too much for Homer. Homer couldn't keep doing that. Calix, I'm going to let you know right now, this dude is a knockout waiting to happen. All right? Joe Timber Joyce.
Who's it going to be, though?
It could be Joshua. It could be Joshua will knock him out, mark my words. I think Usyk would beat the shit out. I don't know if Usyk would stop him, but Usyk would beat the hell out of him.
Big, though, D-Style. He's big and physical.
Yeah, he's big and he's strong. Okay, it's the heavyweight division. Everyone's big and strong in the heavyweight division. Oh, he's big and he's strong. Okay, cool. You're big and strong, man. What else you got? And you get hit easily. Like, and I'm not saying this in that because look, Calix. Mm-hmm. He gets hit a lot is the most overused term in boxing. Okay, dude gets hit with a jab. Oh, bro, he was getting hit with a jab all night. Like that's no. Like with Joyce, it's literal. This dude gets hit with everything. His game plan is you're gonna get tired of beating my ass, and then I'm gonna wreck your ass. That's not gonna work, and it won't work with the Deontay Wilder. I want to see him do that with Deontay Wilder. I want to see Wilder lay his right hands nonstop on this dude until Wilder's tired of hitting him, and then see if he knocks him out.
But he hits too. Like I bring up Alfredo Angulo because I think it's the best analogy. Like Angulo got hit a lot. Angulo was slow. He could be slow-footed. He could follow. He could come straight forward. But he landed. And he landed because he had attrition. He can take a lot of shots. He had a nonstop motor. When they talk about guys who have sparred with Joe Joyce, the issues that these guys have had with Joe Joyce in the gym is they talk about his motor. He does not stop punching. He's got a high output for a heavyweight fighter. He's a pressure fighter. Emmanuel Stewart once said, the bigger, taller pressure fighters are the ones you got to deal with. Those are the ones that are tough to deal with. So I just wonder, like, I understand he's one of those guys to me, and you have him in certain divisions. Like, you could see them losing to multiple guys at the top of the division, but you could also see them beating multiple guys in the top of the division. And that's the type of guy we have with Joe Joyce here. Is like, I watch him fight and I say, I think he can knock out Anthony Joshua, but I think he get knocked out by Anthony Joshua. Same with Deontay Wilder. Now, Tyson Fury is a different story. I think they need to stay away from him altogether. Bad matchup. Usyk, you say, is Usyk too small for this Terminator type of guy? But he's got a Terminator style. I get it. The first time I watched him fight, I'm like, come on. This guy's too slow to get all this hype. But then you continue to watch him, and he's doing the same thing over and over, and you see how guys react to his power when he hits him. And he lost the first round in this fight, D-Style. He lost the first round.
Yeah.
But what happened
against who?
But even the body punches, like, he can go to the body as well. He's got a nice style to where he can put combination punches together, and that's weird for a guy with slow hands. He's got good technique for a slow fighter. It's not all like he's not like a caveman Clubber Lang type fighter. This guy's got some skill.
No, Clubber Lang wasn't a caveman. Clubber Lang? Whoa. What do you mean? The destroyer, Clubber Lang? Like, no. Let me tell you something. Joe Joyce wishes he was Clubber Lang. Okay, like that's number one. Second, bro, like Joe Joyce, just think about it. Just think about this for a second, okay? Joe Joyce he arguably lost to Brian Jennings. Did you watch that fight?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying, look, if somebody had Joyce winning, that you're not crazy. It was a close fight, right? But I scored it for Jennings. Am I crazy for scoring that fight for Brian Jennings?
I thought Joyce won the fight, but I know what you mean. And it does bring up issues as to, because Jennings was way past his prime.
Way past his prime.
So you say to yourself, would he have issues with the smaller fighter like Usyk?
He was getting beat up against Dubois, but Dubois, he got tired, obviously, right? He got tired of beating him up, and his eye was in pain. On top of that,
he's like a zombie, though, like a Terminator type fighter. It's like I could see guys winning rounds against him, but
that works in the movies. This isn't a movie,
and it works against guys who are names past their prime, because that's his resume so far, right? It's guys who have names who are past their prime, right? Mm-hmm. The only guy you could say in his prime that he beat would be Dubois, but that's not a big win.
Right.
So what happens when he steps it up? I just think he fits in that picture because he's an interesting, intriguing guy in this heavyweight division, because he brings that style to where it's always going to be a mystery. We know what he's going to bring in the ring, but it's always a mystery as to what if he steps up and he fights a guy who is going to hit him square in the chin, who can punch like a Deontay Wilder and just knock him out. And that's over. It's over.
If look, I agree 100% with that. I'm not saying he's not in the mix, but he's a knockout waiting to happen. That's just point blank. He's a knockout. He's not going to be able to hammer fist himself into fucking up a dude's eye every fight. You know what I mean? Like at some point, someone's going to, bob and weave their way out of that. And if, he's big and he's strong. Well, Jennings isn't a big heavyweight. He dealt with him just fine, in my opinion, given his age and all that. So Joe Joyce, he isn't a problem, in my opinion, to the top, the cream of the crop. He's not. It's an easy night out for all these dudes.
I can't agree with that. I just can't. Now,
you think it's a problem for Fury?
I don't think I don't think you can say a guy who is that physically imposing, who can take a punch, although it looks that way. We don't know. He hasn't faced a guy with great technique who can punch yet.
Well, Dubois, probably.
But look at these styles. My point is, the heavyweight division.
Mm-hmm.
Who is unbeatable in the heavyweight division, you would say, who is not flawed? You would say Tyson Fury, but is it Tyson Fury? If he does come back, it's going to be against the winner
No,
of
no, no,
Joshua.
nobody's because it's not about like how can I say it? Like, yeah, like everyone has flaws and everyone has like their thing, but like, dude, Joe Joyce is like,
Is he more flawed than Anthony Joshua? Really?
yes. Oh, oh my! Did you just ask me that? Is that a serious question?
Well,
Yes.
with Anthony Joshua, it looks more technically sound. But I'm saying, like, when you hit Anthony Joshua flush on the chin, all that goes out the window.
I actually I disagree with that.
And do you have to be more technically sound in order to be a better fighter? Like some guys are just awkward.
Everybody says that Joshua has a weak chin, but he's
Uh-huh.
never been knocked out. I mean, yeah, they stopped the fight against Andy Ruiz, right?
Right.
But he was on his feet, right? He got up against Klitschko, a guy with over 60 knockouts,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, is his chin really that bad, or is he just fighting in a division where even Lennox Lewis got knocked out twice, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean that's the type of division he's fighting in. In my opinion, Joe Joyce is a knockout waiting to happen. And once someone cracks, they put a crack in that chin, he's done.
Here's what I think, though. We're in a very flawed, historically weak heavyweight division. Okay, it's fun, but it's historically weak as opposed to earlier heavyweight divisions. So,
Right.
what I'm saying is, Tyson Fury looks like he's got one foot out the door. He would likely come back for an undisputed, but that's it. Deontay Wilder, his head doesn't look like Deontay Wilder's doing R&B singles right now. He looks like guys when they lose and go through
What?
mental health crises, they either get tattoos or they do
Sure.
rap or R&B singles. And Deontay Wilder's doing R&B singles right now. So he looks like he's on the way out. So who is this invincible guy at heavyweight? It looks like Usyk is the best, the cream of the crop right now. But other than that, it's Joshua and who else? Who else? So I think right now, if you take Fury and Wilder out of the situation, you could say Joe Joyce is number 3 right now.
No.
Even if you put Wilder, you wouldn't put Joyce at number 5 right now.
I can't do it. Because look, I know a lot of people are impressed with like how is anyone impressed with what he did on Saturday? Like,
He's fun. He's fun. He can
no,
punch.
okay. Fun's fine, but how does that make him like a top 5 heavyweight in the world?
It's a weak division.
Okay, it could be weak all you want. He's a weak fighter himself. He's part of this weak era. But all I'm saying is what makes him top 5?
He can punch.
Does he beat Andy?
Out,
I don't think he beats
I know
Andy
the resume.
Ruiz.
I understand what you're saying. I know the resume is weak. I know he's very flawed. I know he's slow. He's dial up internet. I get it.
All the things Jennings did, I feel
Parker would be 3rd. Here's where I would rank it right now, though. I would have Fury clearly 1, or Usyk 1, Fury 2. You can go either way depending on how you look at that.
Sure.
Then you would have who would you have at 3 right now? Let's say Deontay Wilder 3 or Joshua 3, Deontay Wilder 4. I think you could put Joe Joyce number 5 right now. I've seen enough to where I could say, yes, he's flawed. Yes, he's slow, but he can punch and he can hang with anybody in the heavyweight division and at least give himself a chance to where in a historically weak division, I could see myself putting him at 5, 7 at the lowest.
Sure. I would pick Andy Ruiz over him, brother.
There you go. That's a guy I could say, yeah, I could see Ruiz at number 5.
I'm not even sure. Look, bro, I wouldn't even pick him in a rematch with Dubois. I wouldn't do it.
Really?
So you think he's going to do the hammer fist jab and fuck up the overbone all over again? You think it's going to happen all over again?
Dubois is coming off a win that isn't that great. He hasn't even been paid by Don King yet, by the way, which is a shame. But no, I would pick Joe Joyce to knock out Dubois right now. I think you're too low on him. Like I think he's somewhere in the middle. Yes, 5 likely too high, but you're talking about him like he's outside of the top 10 right now. I just don't see that.
He's look, obviously. I'm not saying he's out of the top 10, but I think we could both agree who's 6 above him, right? No debate. I would
Oh, yeah.
put AJ above him. I don't know if you
Oh,
agree
yeah.
with that, but I would put
Yeah.
AJ above him. I'll put
Oh, no doubt.
Wilder above him.
Yeah.
So I don't care if Wilder's doing R&B, rap, mumble rap, corridos, hard rock, jamming with Slayer. I don't care what he's doing. That dude he will knock out Joe Joyce in the first round. He'll go to sleep. There's no doubt. I would bet the first round too. I'll put money in
Really?
the first round. He's going to land that big right hand. And where's George going to go when the right hand lands?
He might go down. We don't know. We don't know. And Chauncey's like, are you really picking? I'm not picking Joyce to beat Wilder. What I'm saying is that fight could go either way.
Can you picture Wilder not landing? Like, just try to put it in your mind. Can you picture him not landing that right hand?
Oh, he's gonna land it. There's no doubt.
And what's gonna happen?
He's gonna land
when
it.
He lands it.
He's likely gonna knock him out.
So he's gonna land his right hand. That by the way, even when he didn't catch Fury flush, he dropped Fury. But he's gonna land flush on Joe Joyce, and somehow Jesus Christ is gonna come down, perform some miracles to keep this guy on his feet. I'm just saying. Even Jesus might be like, "Oh, I can't do that shit." You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, what? I'll turn water into wine, but I can't make Joe Joyce take 10 of these every round.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very flawed, and he's slow. And the reflexes would not be there to stop Wilder's right hand. What I'm saying, though, is he looks like he's got a great chin. He looks that way. And attrition fighters can be tough. Like Nando says in the chat, spoiler fighters are spoiler fighters for a reason. We don't really know. We don't know who Joe Joyce really is. Is he a guy who could be top 3 heavyweight? Or is he a guy who is very flawed, like we say, and will get knocked out every time he steps up? I think it go either way right now. He is a spoiler fighter.
He is a spoiler fighter. Cool. No problem. But he ain't going to spoil anything with the top dudes. Like, I would pick AJ. I would pick Usyk. I would pick Wilder. I would pick Andy Ruiz. Okay. I would pick Joseph Parker to beat him. Okay. Well, shit, he struggled with Jennings. Okay. Like imagine what Parker would do. All right. I think White is a war. Like White will be beating him up until White gets tired, then he knocks White out. But that's the type of fighter
he would knock White out with an uppercut.
He will knock him out after White has his way with him for like 4 or 5 rounds.
But that's what I'm saying. That's who Joyce is.
But think about what you're saying.
You gotta knock him out.
Think about what you're saying. Oh, it looks like he's got a good chin. How do you know that? How do you know he's got a good chin, Calix?
Admittedly, what I'm saying, it looks that way because we don't know until he steps
No. Like, I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. But there's a reason we know. Why is that? What keeps happening every round?
Because he gets hit.
And is that a good thing? I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing because even guys that were known for having good chins, like even Angulo would actually ride with some shots. You know what I mean? Right. Like you got to ride those shots a little bit. This dude don't ride anything, bro.
And another thing that's bad about it is eventually that chin begins to deteriorate. We saw it with Angulo. We saw it with Carlos Baldomir. Got knocked out late in his career by Canelo. Guys, their chins start to deteriorate, but this guy's still young.
Absolutely.
He's young. So that's all I'm saying. Like, the verdict is still out. I think he's a spoiler fighter. I think he's a guy who could possibly pull off some big victories.
Let me ask you this question, Calix.
Go ahead.
Is he that dude?
What do you mean, that dude?
That dude. Like, everyone knows what that dude is. Like, is he that dude? Is he gonna be that dude?
I think he is. No.
All right.
He's got the possibility of being the boogeyman in the division, in a very flawed division. I just think that the boogeyman eventually gets hit in the chin. We've seen in Stranger Things 4, Vecna gets hit in the right spot and evaporates. But it's the same thing here. Hey. I just think that yes, he's gonna get hit. Eventually, that chin's gonna crack. But I don't know, man. It's tough to say. But I want to get on to another topic here because we'll have plenty of time to talk about Joe Joyce. He's still young.
Hey, you gotta take it slow when you talk about Joe. You know what I mean, Joyce.
Shout out H Money in the chat. Lee Groves always
Shout out to
appreciate.
H.
I always
H
appreciate
Money.
Lee Groves coming
Mr.
through.
Brazil.
I'm gonna bring up some compubox numbers later because we want to talk about the top jabbers in the sport. But this is my top 12 American fighters that I put out yesterday on 4th of July. And I want to go through them real quick. And this is on calixboxing.com for anybody who wants to check it out, because I wanted to go through the American fighters in particular. We've got 19 belts in the sport, legitimate belts who are held by American fighters. And that's a good thing. America by far has the most belts. But with all of the young talent coming up in America, I wanted to highlight that and talk about who are the top fighters currently and who could possibly be the top fighters, American fighters, 2-3 years down the line if we look into the future. Because if you look at this list, a lot of guys in their 20s in this list. That recycling process is happening right now. So this is the top of the list here. Terrence Crawford, number 1, Jermell Charlo, number 2, Errol Spence Jr., number 3. Is there anything you disagree with just off the bat right there with those top 3 guys? How would you have the top 3 ranked? And the reason I have Jermell number 2 is because undisputed in the fashion that he accomplished it has to be rewarded to me. It has to be rewarded.
I agree with Crawford number 1. So let's just put that aside.
He's the alpha dog. Crawford's the alpha dog.
But Jermell's I would put Errol over Jermell.
What would your reasoning be behind that? Just eye test?
Because I'll tell you why. It's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Errol moves up, fights Jermell. He's a favorite. I would favor him to beat him. And that's him moving up. That's why.
Yeah. And I think most people would agree with you. Most people would have Errol 2 and Jermell 3. And most people have Jermell. I think I have Jermell too high. I have him number 5 on my pound for pound rankings. I have Errol Spence number 6. I just think that fighting the top guys at 154 over a 5-year period consistently, and then coming out with all the belts, having all the belts in his trophy case that matter at 154, and then saying, oh, by the way, I'm going to stick around, and he wants to fight Tim Tszyu. I think all of that has to matter. And it comes at a certain point when resume overtakes just the eye test, because I would agree, like Errol Spence looks like the better fighter to me. And by the way, if Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford fight each other and Errol Spence were to win that fight, not only would Errol Spence shoot up to number 1 on this list, but he'd likely be number 1 pound for pound in the sport, and he'd likely be fighter of the year, beating Ugas and Crawford.
Shout out to Big Boys Boxing, by the way. Shout out to those guys.
Big Boy Boxing in the building. So yeah, I mean that's how I have it. But if you look at, I'm going down to 4 through 6 right now. Shakur, Bam, Devin Haney, and this is what I'm talking about as far as the recycling process. These are guys that a year or 2 ago we wouldn't have had on pound for pound list, but I have these guys on my overall pound for pound list. I think I have Shakur number 8. I think I got Bam number 10 and Devin Haney 11 or 12. So all these guys are on my pound for pound list, and they're number 4, 5, 6 on my American pound for pound list. Is there anything you disagree with there? Because all these guys look like the goods to me, particularly Shakur.
I would. It looks okay. Just to piss off Dante, you should probably put Bam over Shakur. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But
saw that video.
You see, guys, told you guys, but I would put it looks about right to me. I would probably put Devin Haney above Bam because he's proven more, but personally.
Yeah, and Chauncey has a thing against Terrence Crawford, by the way. Chauncey thinks that Errol Spence is gonna knock out Terrence Crawford.
Damn.
And I are gonna have a bet on that. Shakur also in the top few in 3 years. I agree. And we'll get to that in a minute because I want to look about 2 or 3 years into the future to see what this list will look like then. And then Devin Haney going to Australia and becoming undisputed. Once again, there are guys on this list that I would say I think they're better than Devin Haney. as far as the outlook. But once again, undisputed has to matter. If boxing fans continue to ask for undisputed unification fights, it
Boots
has
is
to matter.
way too hype. I'm sorry.
What's that?
I don't think Boots should be on the list. It's my opinion.
This is where it's going to get a little fuzzy.
I agree. You know what? And I would actually put Stephen Fulton higher. It's just me.
Mm-hmm. Stephen Fulton right now is number 13, right on the outside of my pound for pound top 12. Mm-hmm. And that's just because of recent performances from other guys. But Fulton, once again, another guy who's one fight away from undisputed if the Akhmadaliev fight happens next. But Boots Ennis, let me first defend my Boots Ennis position.
Sure.
I agree it could be too early. I fully agree. There are guys underneath him with much better resumes. But here's the thing. Boots passes the eye test with flying colors. And that can be deceptive, right? I always bring up the Alan Green example because Alan Green was running through ESPN Friday Night Fights, and then he graduates to Showtime, and the flaws started to show then, right? So it could be the same thing with Boots. It just looks like he's the real deal to me. It looks like everything's there.
No,
on top of that, you gotta remember, certain guys don't have the resume because of them. Boots Ennis wants the top fights now. The mandatory process is going to have to work for him, and I think that guys are going to relinquish.
I agree.
So they don't have to fight
I'm not saying that he doesn't have the skills or nothing like that. The problem is, and I'll give a shout out to Haplotype. Mm-hmm. He was the first to mention this on YouTube. But I think there's a halo effect in effect. Okay? So, dude, if you don't have any, like, in my opinion, that's Virgil's spot right there. The Virgil spot, he looks just as good. He's dominating guys and beating guys that are actually former world champions, coming off wins, guys like veterans that gave a lot of the established dudes problems. He's destroying them. Boots Ennis does Virgil struggle with anybody that Boots has fought?
No.
Now, can we say the same the other way around? You don't think Hooker could give Boots more problems than the guys he's fought?
We don't know. That's the point.
Well, we don't know. I'm going to go about what I've seen and what I know.
Right. But let me counterpoint that. Guys seem more willing to fight Virgil than they do Boots.
Do they?
So you got to throw that. Yeah, I think so. And you got to throw that.
I don't agree with that.
In the mix too.
Virgil, Alex, let me just say this before I reach this point. Virgil's number one in 3 of the sanctioned bodies. 3. WBO, WBA, WBC. He's numero uno. Meaning both Spence and Crawford got options. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's right there. Numero uno. Number 1. Now, Boots, to his credit, number 1 in the IBF. They're both being avoided by top guys. Both of them. I don't see people flocking to fight Virgil Ortiz. I don't see it.
So,
that's my opinion.
Just to back myself up, I'm not the only one who has Boots ranked ahead of Virgil in divisional rankings too. Now, you bring up a great point, and I'm a resume guy, so I could be a little hypocritical here. But I think the eye test with Boots, it works. I think. I could be wrong. But Bad Left Hook, for one, has Boots ranked number 4 in the division, and they have Virgil ranked number 6, which I disagree with because I don't think you could have Keith Thurman ranked ahead of Virgil Ortiz. There's no way. Keith Thurman just doesn't have a meaningful welterweight win in 5 years. So I don't see that. But I think it go either way, but you're right. Virgil, you can make a case that could be Virgil's spot. That's a good point. Now with Sebastian Fundora, I think he ranks at number 9. He's coming off a top 5 win against Erickson Lubin in a fight of the year candidate. He's got an awkward style, and he's going to have a lot of the same issues that Boots Ennis is going to have. Guys are not going to be willing to face him at 154. The process is going to have to work for him. He's even said if Crawford versus Spence doesn't work out, he's willing to fit his frame down to 147 and fight Errol Spence Jr. So Fundora, They've been aggressive with his career. We can tell a lot about a fighter by how his handlers handle him. They're being very aggressive with it. So with him. So it's a tough list to make, though. Once again, in my defense, like there aren't many lists out here for stuff like this for a reason. Like pound for pound lists are
Right.
difficult to make. They're volatile, especially when you get to the bottom half. They're
What
volatile because
about what about Lion Ryan?
What's that?
What about Lion Ryan? You don't got him there
No,
somewhere?
Ryan's not even in my honorable mentions as I go down.
Damn.
He's not in my honorable mentions. No, 10 through 12, once again, you can go many different directions with this. I got Benavidez. Benavidez has been his own worst enemy. He's gotten in his own way. But the eye test, once again, he doesn't have any great wins, but the eye test, he looks the part. Just off of the eye test, he's currently ranked universally number 2 at 168. Not a strong division, but I got him at 10. I got Tiafimo at 11. Tiafimo has dropped like a heavy rock in the water because of
100%.
the past 2 years, right? And then Tank Davis, I put talented, but it's time to step up. Enough said.
Yeah,
So,
but here's the thing though, like you got Tank, Tank, step up, but like you got Boots in the list, like you know what I mean? Like, well, does that? Well, you know what?
No. But let me defend that position.
Okay. Right.
Guys in the division. What's the other way we know? I bring this up. Handlers handle them. That's how you can tell about who a fighter is. Also, how do the peers in the division react when the name is brought up? The other guys at 147 do not want to fight Boots Ennis. All right. The other guys at 135 want to fight Tank Davis. Who is stopping those fights from being made? Tank Davis. And Tank Davis is a decade into his career. Boots Ennis about halfway of that, if not less. So the reason I say Tank needs to step it up, and the reason I've dropped Tank on these rankings is his career seems stagnant to me.
I will say though, like you can't. Boots cannot be above dudes that have been world champions. That's my opinion. Mm-hmm. Like Benavidez has to be above Boots. That's my opinion. But
okay,
yeah.
That's fair, and it's subjective.
And by the way, I know I'm in the minority in this. I know most people, and rightfully so, Boots looks the part. There's no doubt about that. You know what I mean? But I just think there's a little more to prove, in my opinion.
Okay, so it seems like the big issue so far is Boots Ennis being that high. Now, other guys, Josh Franco, I'm big on Joshua Franco, right out on the outside. And I feel like Bam is getting a lot of the accolades at 115 and is sort of taking away from Josh, right? And 115 is such a shark tank of a division that a guy as talented as Josh Franco could be 5.
I think Franco should be fighting Strada soon.
Well, the Gallo Estrada fight has been ordered, but they're also talking about the Chocolatito fight because of the 120,000 purse bid that was rewarded for the Estrada versus Franco fight, which is disrespectful.
Good job, Golden Boy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they're trying to tell Joshua Franco to take $30,000 for a fight.
And you know what's? I'm going to make a really quick point. You know what's sad about that? Mm-hmm. Joshua Franco's fights where he got, his highest paydays were against Maloney. Top Rank forked that out. They loaned them out to Top Rank to do those fights. So, like, Golden Boy has to reach into their pockets, bro, to pay this dude. And how many fights now? And then they wanted to fight for $30,000 now? Come on, bro.
Yeah. I know it's disrespectful to the lower weight class guys, but Franco's in there. Honorable mentions, Virgil.
But only the women. Oh, we want equal pay. You know what I mean? Like, you want to make the $30,000 Franco, mate? I'll make an argument that the little guys get more disrespected than the women, right? Because they have the skills. What do they say, Alex? The skills to pay the
bills,
but they can't pay their bills. But they got the skills. Something that right.
Yep. And the reason I have Jamal off the list is, and it's a shame, he's the anti-Jamel. He's allergic to fighting top middleweights. Boo Boo Andre, to me, is just a boring career, stagnant career. And Boo Boo Andre could have done that to make these fights easier, and he's pulled out of fights. He just pulled out of a fight with Zach Parker. Okay, so He's been his own worst enemy as well. It's not just guys ducking Boo Boo Andre. Regis Prograis is one guy. And I put Virgil Ortiz will be back on the list soon. His career has been stagnant as of late because of the illness, obviously. And not his fault. He wanted a bigger fight in August than he's getting. So props to Virgil Ortiz. He'll be on the list again soon. But Regis Prograis is one that's a big question mark to me, especially being from down here in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I still think he's the most talented 140-pounder in the world, and that's a deep division. You and I both had him beating Josh Taylor in that fight. Just think of how different things would be had he gotten that decision. I'm not saying it's controversial. It was a debatable decision, could have went either way. But just think if he would have gotten a nod there, how much different things would have been. He would have got the undisputed fight. He would have likely beaten Ramirez. He'd likely be on pound-for-pound lists. But instead, he's a promotional free agent and still not getting fights. It's weird. And he should be high on this list, but yet he's not. He's a guy in his prime, in his career, who's still not getting the fight. So what's going on there?
I don't know. I think some of it could be his own personal decisions, who he signed with and all that, but wasn't he pursuing a Broner fight last year?
He was pursuing the Broner fight. He was pursuing a Mikey Garcia fight. None of them materialized.
None of them materialized, and that could have been the names that could have put him up, put people on notice about him. But I think it's a shame, bro, because in my opinion, I thought he won that Josh Hader fight. And by the way, I picked Josh Hader to win that fight. But after I scored, I said, I don't think he won, but whatever, right? But what has he done since then? He hasn't really done anything. I don't want this guy's career to just pass him by. He's not, look, I'm not saying he's a spring chicken either, but he's not that old. He's got time. He could still do his thing. I want to see Regis Prograis in the mix against the top 140-pounders. You know what I mean? I wouldn't mind seeing Ramirez Regis Prograis fight, or Regis Prograis versus Teofimo Lopez, or there's a lot of fights that could be done. So I just want to put that out there.
And he's been calling out Teofimo Lopez, by the way, who's fighting Pedro Campa, unfortunately, in his next fight and his step up to 140. And hit that like button as y'all come in, by the way.
And he should. Look, granted, it's not smart to just jump up and fight the best like that after coming off a loss, but if you're Regis Prograis, you keep calling him out. That's what fighters should do. When fighters call out dudes nowadays, you know what they say? Oh, he's clout chasing. Bro, if someone's in your division, right, you should be calling them out to fight. That's what fighters should do. Was Muhammad Ali clout chasing, Sonny Liston or what?
Yeah. No, he wasn't. And by the way, I'm bringing up screen share again. Y'all might not be able to see this, but we're a numbers show, and we're going to bring up some analytics here. This is compubox, and this is jabs. And I want to bring this up because I don't think it's not a coincidence that the top jabbers in the sport are the best fighters in the sport. It seems that way anyway. If you look at average jabs thrown per round, Alexander Usyk, number one at 38.8 thrown. Bivol is in the mix. Errol Spence Jr. in the mix. Gennady Golovkin, Inoue. These are guys who throw a ton of jabs. But I want to look at this number in particular. Average jabs landed per round. Okay. And guess who's number one? Who would you guess is number one?
Trying to cheat by looking, but
it's hard to see
who's on the screen. I believe, is it man, I don't know, Bivol?
It is not. And Bivol is number two, but
okay.
It is actually Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin is the only fighter in the sport who lands double-digit jabs per round at 10.2. Everybody else is in a single digit. So he's the best jabber in the sport by a healthy margin. Number two is Dimitri Bivol at 9. Number 3, Inoue. And number 5 is Usyk. David Benavidez, a guy that you're going to see on the top of a lot of rankings when it comes to numbers, CompuBox stats.
Sure.
Is Vasily Lomachenko, 6.8 as far as jabs. If you look at, in particular, offensive numbers, Lomachenko is at the top of a lot of these lists. Roman Gonzalez, another one. I think that's why they're high on a lot of people's pound for pound lists. Still, they built up a lot of equity, and people look at the numbers. But Gennady Golovkin, number one. The reason I wanted to bring this up is a lot of people focus when it comes to Golovkin, Inoue, Usyk. They focus on the other punches, and they focus on power punching, especially when it comes to Golovkin. But what sets up all that? And it's the jab. The jab sets all of that up. So you wouldn't think that Golovkin has the best jab in the sport statistically. You wouldn't think that, but he does. He does.
Yeah, but how long have they been tracking this? His career? Or
his career. That's his career. And it's good combination. That's what I said. Like when you look at the stats, top 10, top 20 can be deceptive because guys are fighting different level of competition. They're fighting different activity level. But when you start to see guys on the elite level, guys like Golovkin, guys like Inoue, guys like Lomachenko, they fought a decent amount of competition, decent activity level through their career. So when you see these stats, they add up. And you see Golovkin's got a hell of a jab. He sets up everything, and you wouldn't think that when it comes to Golovkin because so much is made about his power punches. But who are the two top jabbers in the sport? Golovkin and Bivol. Who are two guys that have given Canelo issues? Golovkin and Bivol. Do you think that's a coincidence?
I mean, I don't think that's a coincidence at all. I mean, I question whether that's the same Golovkin. I don't believe it is. But when he was that Golovkin and he had a nice power jab behind everything he threw, it's a different type of jab to Bivol. I will say that. But it's not a coincidence. And jabs are always going to be like a successful tool in most cases. Like that's the punch to utilize against fighters. The jab sets everything up. You know what I mean? Like you said. And that's why they call it the most important punch in boxing. You know what I mean? But people don't think that because very rarely do you see a jab land and then something big happens, like dramatic. No, a jab is something systematic that helps with everything else. You know what I mean? And it's not a coincidence. And I think people they should have already known this, but the path to dealing with Canelo is to utilize a jab, is to work everything behind a jab, keep his head moving. You know what I mean? But easier said than done, but that's definitely the thing to do against him for sure.
Yeah, I think the narrative that's overplayed in boxing is Canelo struggles with lateral movement. I've just never seen that he's struggled with lateral movement. Sure, is it nicer to have a guy stand right in front of you? Yes, but Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, Austin Trout, Erislandy Lara, I thought he beat all those guys. All right. Mm-hmm. And I thought Austin Trout was likely the closest out of all of those. But I feel like the guys who gave him the most trouble, the narrative that does stick that people aren't paying attention to more is the jab. Mayweather landed the jab on Canelo and then stayed out of the way. Golovkin, both fights, landed the jab against Canelo. Bivol landed the jab against Canelo. Now, it's also interesting how it's the same punch, but it can be used for different reasons, right? Bivol uses it as a defensive mechanism, and that's why he's the best defensive fighter in the sport statistically. Golovkin more uses it as an offensive weapon. Like he uses it as a power shot. So it's interesting in that way, but both of those, do you agree with that narrative, by the way, that Canelo struggles with lateral movement?
I don't. I've never agreed with that. First of all, let me backtrack a little bit. All fighters have problem with lateral movement. You know, that's like saying, "Oh, that football team, they have trouble against teams that score touchdowns." You know what I mean? Like what do you mean? What does that even mean? Look, Lara is just a difficult in his prime anyway. He was just a difficult guy to fight for anybody. I don't care who you put him in the ring with. And plus, it's not like Lara was getting beat up by other dudes, but stylistically he just gave Canelo problems because he's a mover. Like no.
And right? Boy, was he moving. And not
Like that dude was moving so bad. You know what I mean? But my point is, no, it's not a thing like that. You know what I mean? I think Canelo proved against several fighters now that it's not the lateral movement. He didn't have a problem getting in mid range against Bivol. That was an issue. The issue wasn't, where he had Bivol against the fucking ropes. That wasn't the issue. The issue was that when he threw the punches, Bivol was doing things to counteract that. He was blocking the shots, and it was countering him and then getting and pivoting out of the way. He was beating him to the punch with a nice straight jab, or like there was things Bivol was doing besides just the lateral movement, right? It was the constant. Like he was in front of Canelo a lot in that fight, and he got in the front foot several times in that fight. But he picked and he chose when to do it. So now I don't buy that notion. I think if anything, it's the jab that gives Canelo more problems than the movement, right? Mm-hmm. Movement gives anyone problems, right? If a guy's a really good boxer and can move very well, that's going to give anybody problems. That's not exclusive to Canelo, right? Bro, I've never known about a dude in my life, that guy had no problem with movers. But like, what? Like, everyone had trouble with Whitaker. Like, what do you mean? Like, everyone had trouble with Mayweather. Like everyone had trouble with Ray Leonard. He engaged more, but he could move if he wanted to, right? Mm-hmm. Like everyone. What is Hagler a guy that had trouble with movement? Like, what? Because he lost to Leonard? Well, what does that even mean? Like, I just think it's a very vague thing to say, in my opinion. But it's definitely the jab, and it's not just. I mean, it was more than just a jab. Like, you got to do a little more than that. But yeah, the jab is a good starting point for sure.
Now, not the end all be all either. And I want to bring up this point is we don't say exposed when we talk about the jab and Canelo, because Canelo has also shown that he can defeat the jab, right? Mm-hmm. The reason Canelo has moved up weight classes is he's been able to find a niche in which he enjoys fighting taller fighters because he can get inside their jab. It's just a special jab that gives him problems. Golovkin has a special power jab. Bivol has a special defensive jab. Mayweather was special in every way. So it's not just the jab. I think it's elite special fighters who give him sort of issues. And also Canelo beat Golovkin in the second fight. I had him edging out Golovkin in the second fight. So he figured out the jab as rounds went on, right? He figured it out. Golovkin's jab was less effective as the 24 rounds went on. So it's interesting to see how that third fight's going to play out.
It was just like he has a more versatile jab, okay? Mm-hmm. He used like Bivol. Like, he uses the jab to set other punches up. He uses jab to disrupt rhythm. He uses the jab to end the combination, because that lets him get the escape route if he wants. Like, he uses it for different things. Whereas Golovkin, it's more of a power jab, right? That's really what it is. He steps hard and he throws it, right? And I think that's why I think Jacobs gave him problems, because Jacobs was able to anticipate that a little better. Right, that was a close fight, and then there was also the second. Like, I thought in both Canelo fights, to be honest with you, but for sure the second fight, I thought Canelo had it timed like very well. It's just how I feel about it, especially in the mid rounds.
He's great at timing his opponents, great at it, and that's special, by the way, if you can do that against the power puncher who has power punching with every punch, but. Chauncey brings up an interesting point here, is the different types of jabs. It's interesting, like Devin Haney, you consider him a great jabber, and you don't necessarily other fighters, because Haney is clear. That's clearly his best punch. That's clearly his money punch. And if you take away and isolate his jab, it would likely go downhill from there afterwards. And he doesn't have much power, so he needs that jab. And he has a great jab, great and effective jab. Devin Haney, one of the best jabs in the sport. Another one is Errol Spence. And the reason I want to highlight this is it's interesting to me how guys use it in different ways. Spence will go away from the jabs at times, but you saw it against Ugas. He clearly went in as, I'm going to attack Ugas here, and I'm going to use it behind the jab. He shot that jab upstairs. He shot it at the chest. He shot it at the abdomen. And that's when the fight changed. Is he went to the body early with the jab, and that took away Ugas's legs, and it took away his lateral movement, and he used it to ramp up that pressure. And it's just interesting to me how guys use it in different ways. Some guys are using it as an offensive weapon. Some guys will use it defensively. The best defensive jabber that I can think of is Dimitri Bivol. He can use that off the back foot.
Front foot.
It's beautiful how it works.
On the move.
Yeah. Anything you got to add to that?
No, I'll just say I agree with everything you said about Bivol's jab. I think Bivol is if people don't have him top 3 jabber in the sport, I don't know what to say. And by the way, Kelly, I'm not saying this post Canelo fight. I've been saying this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like I've been saying, if there's one guy that can outbox Canelo in his way, it's Bivol. I've always been saying that. Right. So it's not just me like, oh, you're just saying that because he beat Canelo and now you want to give him all this credit. No. Like I've been saying this about Bivol's jab is really, really good. It's a well school. Like, and dude, he also, because you could tell Bivol is influenced a lot by the quote unquote American style. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But he also has, there's one thing, because people always talk shit about these Europeans, you know, like the European style, just straight up and down, whatever. But what do they always got? A good, educated jab, a nice stiff jab, a well-placed, fundamental jab. Bivol has that, but he's also versatile with it on top of that. You know what I mean? So like you said, I think he does a good job throwing it off his back foot. He's confident with it. I like it.
And not only that, he fought off of his front foot with combination punches and backed Canelo up in spots in that fight as well. I mean, it was beautiful how he changed pace in that fight. And one other thing I wanted to say on that is Bivol doesn't only have a really good jab, he has a great jab, because once again, guys with good jabs deteriorated against Canelo as the fight went on. If you have a great jab, like if you're able to consistently do that through 12 rounds against Canelo, you have a great jab. And I just think he proved that statistically he's the best defensive fighter in the sport, but it's between him and Shakur Stevenson at the top level. They're the 2 best statistically, and I just think you can go with either guy defensively. It's going to be tough to beat Bivol.
I would personally go with Bivol because he did it with better opposition with Canelo.
Yeah, and one last thing I wanted to ask you before we wrap this thing up is Bivol versus Beterbiev. Now that we're talking about Bivol, who would you pick just off the top of your head in that fight? And that's because of what we talked about. Defense. You think defense? The reason I love that fight, and I think it's one of the best pure boxing matches to make with Crawford and Spence, is I could see it playing out either way, and it's the best like pure boxer against puncher. And I'm not trying to diminish what Beterbiev brings to the table because he's not a caveman either. He's a guy who has technical skill. And I'm not trying to take away from Bivol by just calling him a pure boxer because, as you said, he has layers to his game and he has a killer instinct. But I just think it's tough to call that fight. It's tough to call that fight because of what we just mentioned. And I would lean Bivol as well, but I watched what Beterbiev did to Joe Smith Jr., and I see a guy who can rise to the occasion in a big spot. And I wonder if Bivol can deal with that pressure and that power for 12 rounds, because I don't see him knocking out Beterbiev.
Yeah, look, I mean, it depends how someone can see it. Like, I don't believe he's going to knock out Beterbiev, but that's not how he wins fights anyway. You know what I mean? Like, here's the thing. Historically, it's just historically, when there's 2 top fighters, the masses, they tend to always favor the more exciting guy, the one that's winning in more exciting fashion. They're the ones that the masses subconsciously, you want that exciting guy to win. But reality is that's not how boxing works. Okay, just because Better Beef is more exciting and he's knocking guys out, it doesn't mean he's going to win that fight. That's not what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I'm not saying Better Beef can't win because Better Beef's good, but I think Bivol is different. I don't think Bivol's going to fold under pressure. I don't think he's going to fold to the pressure. I don't think he's going to fold to the constant whatever movement, whatever you want to call it. Okay, Bivol is not going to fold, bro. Bivol is going to like he just doesn't. And I think he's got the movement, he's got the boxing ability, and he's got the stamina. Bivol has phenomenal stamina to move around that ring, right? Responsibly. I'm not talking a run marathon. I'm talking he's going to be mid-range, but he's going to be able to pivot out of the way, circle out of the way, and dictate, be the ring general on when they're going to fight. Okay, this is not, ladies and gentlemen, this is not Joe Smith. This is not Brown. This is not, I'm not saying those guys are nothing, but this is a different animal. Like Bivol is, in my opinion, the best fighter at 175 pounds until somebody proves it otherwise. Period.
And I got him number 7 pound for pound, and he could climb that as well. But the reason I agree with you that Bivol is special and built different is what did he do when he beat Canelo? He said, I just beat 168 pounds. Everybody was applauding the victory except Bivol. He was like, yeah, he hit my arms. My arms hurt. He's a 168 pounder, but I see more value in being undisputed and beating Better Beef.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's interesting because any other guy would have said, oh my God, I beat Canelo. I'm at the mountaintop. And when guys fight Canelo, they sort of take a break after, right? They enjoy even losing to him. I got the fight. I got a big payday. But Bivol's like, give me another fight in a couple months from now. Give me undisputed. That's how you can tell he's built different.
Better Beef's the Terminator, bro. Okay? He's a T-800. That's what he is. Okay? Bivol's a T-2000, brother. He's liquid metal. You know what I mean? You put the liquid metal in the teacup, it becomes a teapot. You know what I mean? Put in the cup, it becomes a cup. Put in like he's the liquid metal of it. That's what he is. That's Bivol. Okay, this dude, he is that dude. I'm just telling you right now. Like, look, like
the GOAT disagrees with you.
Better Beef is good. Like I'm not like I don't want people to think, oh, D-Style, he doesn't like Better Beef, and you can't say it's because I hate Russians. Like they're both Russian, right? You can't say like it's because he's got it. Like look, I'm going against the other dude that has a beard. Like you know what I mean? What I'm saying is, look, Better Beef is that dude. Like he could box on the back foot when he's fighting a Joe Smith. That's when he does that. Just like Matisse boxed when he was fighting Provodnikov. But when he fought superior boxers, he didn't box. Like, you know what I mean? He was the pressure guy. Bivol, you think Bivol's going to be on the front foot chasing Better Beef? No. But he's going to be the one. He's going to be the aggressor against Bivol. He's going to be getting popped. He's going to be getting hit. And let me just tell you something, okay? This dude, okay? He's too slow for Bivol, brother. Like people don't want me to say it, I'm going to say it. He's
not slow. He's not slow.
No, I'm not saying he's slow. I'm saying he's too slow for Bivol. Okay, look, my car when I'm driving 60 miles per hour in my cruise, like it's not slow. Now put me next to a NASCAR like car, it's slow. All I'm saying is one dude's a Lamborghini, the other dude he's a pickup truck, but it's just too slow. Catch up. He's going to look slow, bro. I'm sorry. Remember how slow he looked against Brown the first 2 rounds? Remember how slow he looked against Vajdik?
He's got a different gear in big fights, though. I think both guys showed that they raised their level in big fights, and like we both agree. I think we're both high. We're both high on both fighters. We both are. I got Better Beef at number 8 on my pound for pound list, right behind Bivol. We're high on both guys. I've heard you speak about Better Beef, but Bivol does seem special. He seems special. And that's the difference. Like, I think what I hear you saying is nobody in and around 175 can deal with this guy. And Bivol versus Better Beef is interesting to me. I could see it going either way, but I gotta lean. I would say 60-40 Bivol. I just think he brings so much to the table. He's such a special fighter. He's got everything. He's got everything. And I think as the fight goes on, he has to show different. Like you said, he can morph into different things.
Hey, remember the liquid metal? Like he got hit. Like remember, like when like Arnold Schwarzenegger gave him a good fight, but in the end, liquid metal would always win, bro. He would always whoop his ass. Remember, like, I would get pissed when I was a kid. Like, why is this guy beating up the Terminator? What the hell's going on over here, right? Mm-hmm. But then, like, unless there's a pit of lava next to the ring, I just don't see him winning.
Yep. Shout out to everybody in the chat. So we're going to be doing a lot of midweek shows, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. You're going to see D-Style
and just so you guys know, and I'll just say this now. So just to be more flexible, I don't know. We're going to give you guys a time, like, we're going to be on this time every midweek. But just so right now, you guys are watching. Go to Calix's, like, go to the bell button, hit the all. So you're notified, like, boom, but we'll try to either, like, if you follow on social media, on the other shows, like, we'll keep you guys in the loop. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We'll keep you guys in the loop and all that. So,
and as always, I'm active on the community tab as well. All my articles go up to the community tab. So if you want to catch out calixboxing.com, go to the community tab. I got my prediction videos, and we'll be talking about betting odds this week as well. Because I think we got some interesting fights coming up this weekend that are flying under the radar. So we'll be talking about that as well. So look out for us, and make sure to hit that sub button if y'all aren't subbed as well. Appreciate y'all. Any final words?
Here's what I will say. Okay, everyone watching right now, if you have pressed that bell button, press the 1. Right now, in the chat, I want to see that numero uno. You know what I mean? Make sure you sub, by the way, and then we'll keep guys. We have some ideas. I don't want to reveal them yet. And tomorrow, I have no idea when. So don't ask me. I have no clue when, but at some point, I'm gonna at least I think Calix too, but we're gonna be on Ring IQs.
Yeah, at some point. Yep.
At some point. When? Right. I don't know. You know what I mean? But we'll be there at some point. So I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there. Shout out to everybody. Hey, this was just an impromptu show, and some people showed up. I feel proud. You know what I mean? So there you go. Oh, and by the way, I have a quick announcement. Uh-huh. Okay, mid-year awards on Thursday, roundtable. Okay, and then we're gonna have a segment. And like, is it gonna stay or is it gonna fold? Are some of these mid-year awards going to make it to the distance? Are they going to go a full 12, not rounds, but months, and make it to the distance? Because usually, Calix, the second half usually win all the awards, maybe because it's fresh on people's minds for the most part. So,
bias.
Yeah. So,
but I'll say this, my mid-year awards, I'm glad you brought that up, are on calixboxing.com, so go check those out as well, my mid-year awards, and I look forward to unveiling them on the roundtable. And shout out to Nando. Appreciate this, Nando.
And of course, Aftermath will be back next Monday as well.
Yes, but on the roundtable, I will be there Thursday night. So I look forward to unveiling my mid-year awards on there, because this first half of this year was one of the best in boxing we've seen in modern boxing. Since we've been on the YTBC, this has been one of the more active half years, meaningful fights, great performances from top fighters. It's really been unprecedented from what we've seen in recent years. So hopefully we get things going in the second half. It seems slower than the first half by a good bit, but hopefully we get some fights being made. Do you hear us, Crawford and Spence? Do you hear us? Make that fight. October, November. I'm looking forward to...
About all the fan bases, like, pointing fingers. Oh, it's Bud's fault. It's Spence's fault. Like, be a fan. Demand the fight. Let's be the demand. Okay, that's how the economy works. Be the demand, and then everything will settle itself. Okay,
that's right.
Don't be the. Oh, yeah, I want to see it, but you know what? If it doesn't happen, I'm okay with it because it's Bud's fault. Like, you're okay with it if it doesn't happen? Get the fuck out of here.
And they're just going to stream the fight anyway.
They're just going to stream the fight.
Right.
Unbelievable. Follow us on Twitter, guys. Follow us on Twitter, by the way. Just putting that out there.
Boxing 2 on Twitter, and
it's the best way. It's the best way to keep up with what's going on, as far as with our shows coming up and everything. So, everybody, go. Let me bring this up really quick.
And that's the easiest way to get to me. If you hit me up on Twitter, I'm getting right back to you.
Go to Twitter. All right, follow me there.
At D Style Boxing on Twitter. On that note, we out till tomorrow.
Peace.